Communication is a tool that all of us have access to, but few of us understand how to use it to its fullest potential. Our guest tonight helps people increase their confidence and relational intelligence so they can enjoy meaningful connections in all areas of their lives. So sit back, relax, and we are going to have an amazing show tonight. If you are new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on this channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and create the life you've always wanted, going to the next level. And you have caught me, I usually try to say the middle, but it's actually the beginning of what we're calling Vlogmas, day number 6. It's every December when content creators begin to expand, improve, and grow their creativity, growing their audience, improving their content. And it benefits us because we get to grow, right? And it benefits our audience, our patients, our clients, because you get to see us do it in real time. And tonight we're going to continue this same idea with our special guest tonight. So shout out to all of those of you who are out there who are doing Vlogmas. If you see this logo right here, if you're out there and you see a video that has this logo, if you see some content that has this logo, go on over and support the creator because they're in Vlogmas and they are working to improve what they do. If you've not already done so, go ahead and make sure that you get connected to us by subscribing, by following us, by friending us, liking us, sending us a message, whatever you want to do, so that we know that you guys are out there. We thank you for joining us tonight. And what a doozy of a conversation we're going to have tonight. We've got Tatiana Rodriguez. And she is the creator. She is the voice. She's the face. She's the driving force behind a YouTube channel called Tatiana Teaches. She is a content creator. She's a speaker. She's an adjunct professor. She teaches interpersonal communication and leadership. And she teaches communications that will help people, as I said at the beginning, increase their confidence and relational intelligence. So I know I keep going on and on and on. So why don't we just bring her up to the stage? Tatiana, we are so glad that you are with us tonight.
Me too. Happy Vlogmas. Happy Tuesday night.
All right. Yeah. Happy Vlogmas. Wow. And if you guys didn't realize, Vlogmas, right? So we're close to Christmas and all that stuff, right? This is an exciting time for me. I love this time of year. It reminds me when I was a kid, after Thanksgiving, when all the family came together, then Christmas happened. And I'm from Brooklyn. So there was all this hustle and bustle and we'd go downtown and it was just amazing. So are you ready for Christmas, Tatiana?
No, Dwayne, I am not ready for Christmas. I have not even begun preparations, but I will be ready in time.
In time, that's right. Amazing.
Vlogmas has taken all of my time, so Christmas preparation. But I actually plan to do a little decorating tomorrow morning, so that is happening tomorrow.
All right, so it's on the way.
Yes, it's coming. It's coming.
That's right. That's right. So Tatiana, why don't you just take a minute and just introduce yourself to our audience? We're going to talk a little bit more about what you do and how you got there, but just give us a little, maybe 30-second who Tatiana is.
Absolutely. Let's start at the beginning. Origin story. Originally born in Costa Rica, raised in New Jersey, now living in Pennsylvania for the past few months, but a Jersey girl, the oldest in my family, so I'm also a big sister. I am an educator. I love teaching. I love pouring into the lives of my students. I teach at Rutgers University, and I am representing Rutgers University with my attire tonight. Got the Scarlet Knights, and I saw, Dwayne, that you also are representing university tonight. We did not plan that, so it's kind of like university night tonight. I love it. But let's see. In a crazy life plot twist, I have a 10-year-old sister. I'm 45, and I have a 10-year-old sister. I have 3 brothers. So family is a big part of who I am. I have an amazing partner, and I feel so fulfilled and blessed and honored by my students, my interaction with them, the ability to have influence over the lives of young adults as they begin their independence and start this path of autonomy. teaching public speaking or leadership or interpersonal communication. It's a pleasure. It's a joy. I love to cook on a personal note. I love to read. I'm a lifelong learner, constantly learning, reading, developing, growing. I'm one of those nerdy people who's always listening to a TED Talk, a podcast, or a book, even sometimes just having a little bit of lighthearted fun. But one of my favorite things in the world to do is to have small dinner parties, to cook, to host, to have conversations. So cooking, conversations, ambiance, all of that, I would probably put that as one of my number one favorite things in the world to do. That's a little bit about me.
Awesome. I love that. Oh, wow. So family, a big part of what you do. Communication, and you heard me kind of talk about this communication. We all have access to the skill, but we don't usually know how to use it. When you say communication, or when people think communication, what does that usually conjure up in our minds?
I think it's one of those words that conjures up different things in different people's minds. I think most people would not be able to accurately define communication other than maybe speaking to each other, human interaction with words, but it is so much bigger than that. And you hit on a really important point, Dwayne, and that is we're unfamiliar with communication that will bring freedom, improvement to our lives, because so many times, and myself included, we're not taught how to communicate properly. So maybe in your case, Dwayne, you were taught, you did have great role models and examples of how to handle yourself in conflict or understand about anger, or developing public speaking skills, or conquering fear, being more confident. But most people do not have that experience. And so I took it upon myself to learn when I was very young. And here I am now doing my best to pass on what I know and help other people grow and develop in their own communication skills.
I mean, that's so interesting that you say that, yet you're right that most times when we think communication, we just think, okay, I'm talking to them and they're talking to me. But it's much deeper than that, because we can be saying words at each other, but really not communicating.
Yes, and I'll use this analogy in class with my students. When we look at a website, let's just say a Spotify song, what we see on that screen is an image of the artist, the album, and some text. But the source code that it took to create that is millions of characters and things that we don't see. And I equate that analogy to me. It's like when we meet somebody, we only see this, like we can make some assessments about the person and we might have opinions and judgments about our interaction with them, but we really don't know what's happening. And communication is about understanding yourself so much better and then understanding other people as well. So part of it is understanding me. A lot of it is understanding how I interact with other people, and then also really understanding the people in my life, my coworkers, my loved ones, my family, my friends, people in community organizations, like wherever our circles take us, knowing how we interact with others in the world.
Wow, right. And really, sometimes words, right, the words that we say are a small part of the communication that we're having, right? Because your body language, the tone of your voice, how you sit, how you position your head, all those things are really giving some nonverbal communication, correct?
Absolutely. Verbal, of course. Like if I were to mute right now, you might get a little bit of my communication, but you wouldn't get the full extent of it. So most definitely our diction, our word choice is huge in communication. But our body speaks for us too in many different ways. And there's a famous study that's often slightly miscited that words are only 7% of what we say in communication. But I would say a little more accurate interpretation of that study is that when our words and our body language are not in alignment, when they're just disconnected, we tend to put more weight on the nonverbal than on the words themselves. So the ideal thing as communicators is to make sure that our words and our body, right, the verbal and the nonverbal stuff, are in alignment and that they are communicating the message that we want to communicate.
Wow. So it all has to line up, because you could be saying, and I think I use this a lot, or maybe people use it with me. They say, well, you're saying some words, but your face and your body is not, they don't match up with what you're trying to tell me. You're saying you agree, you're saying you're sorry, you're saying whatever, but yeah, your face is telling me something totally different.
Yes, right. And that's, people are picking up there on your nonverbal cues in that case, right? Because we can hear the words, but it doesn't feel like you really mean it. So part of that is tone, because there's the sounds that we make, and then there's the way that we say those sounds and those things that have a different meaning, right? And even just changing the enunciation, the emphasis in one word changes it. Like if I say to you, I didn't call you yesterday versus I didn't call you yesterday, those two sentences have two totally different meanings just based on where we put the emphasis of the word. So the verbal part is really important too, but getting it all in alignment, and that's what we practice a lot, because say my public speaking students, they're getting ready to give a speech. The nonverbal is often second because they're so focused on the words themselves that the body language goes, or even I've had students who are almost dancing with their legs delivering a speech and not even realize that they're doing it because they're so focused on speaking, and all of these alarms are going off in their head, and the nervousness and the wanting to do it well, that until they see the video, they had no idea that they're doing this particular gesture. So really important for us to have that awareness as well when we want to become better communicators.
Wow. So before we continue with that communication, tell us a little bit about, and you mentioned that you took it upon yourself to learn communication. Share with us a little bit about what was the driving force behind you wanting to do that.
Sure. And this is personal, and I'm very happy and open to share about my upbringing. In my family, whom I love so very much, and growing up, we had a tough time because we were dealing with alcoholism. You know, my father struggled with alcoholism, which impacted our entire family. And when a family is in that kind of a survival mode, let's just say that developing effective communication skills is not exactly on the top of the priority list. So for me, I remember feeling like I know that there has to be a better way to communicate. And that's what I mean that I took it upon myself. I wanted to learn, I wanted to study, I wanted to be able to get better. And I'm happy to say I have the best relationship with my parents that I've ever had in my entire life. And my father's been sober for a very long time. So that's a part of our family history. But I share that openly because, one, I know a lot of people struggle with these types of issues. But secondly, I know how deeply it impacts the way that we communicate, the way that we handle anger, the way that we handle sadness, how we stand up for ourselves, and even boundaries, which is something I talked about recently on my channel last week, different types of boundaries. And then the week before that was deep listening. So all of these things interconnect quite deeply. But that's how it got started for me, is just wanting something better for myself, for my relationships, because I'm only responsible for me, but wanting to be able to communicate more effectively in better ways, even in difficult times, as much as in those happy and uplifting times like the holiday season.
Yeah, because this is a tough time for people sometimes. That they may have had losses. There may be some estrangement with family. There may be distance, and so all of these things. And so important to have good communication, particularly these times. I know when I was kind of coming up and talking and getting married and dating and all those types of things, one of the things that I was always told is be very careful in your communication around the holidays. Because with all the tenseness that's going on, all the people are trying to buy presents and the expectations and, we're going to go here. No, we're going to go there. And if you're not careful, there can be lots of miscommunication. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah.
I think so. And I think probably because the holidays are a time of high stress. So any time of high stress is more susceptible to miscommunication, to misunderstanding, because everyone's stress levels are here. And when we're stressed, we're definitely not at our best. Most people don't operate really well, or even just in terms of patience levels when they're up here. So I think that's a lot of the reason why things can escalate pretty quickly during really busy seasons, stressful seasons like the holidays.
Right. Wow. Wow. So do you have, you've developed this interest in communication and you are teaching, right? So we're kind of fast forwarding in your kind of history. How did you get to the university? How did you get to that level in education or in communication?
It was quite the journey, and some people have a very linear path. You know, they're young, and I don't know, Dwayne, if this was the case for you, but you said when you're a child, I want to be a doctor, and now you're an endocrinologist. For me, it was not a straight path at all. I wanted to be one thing and then another thing. But when I was a young adult starting college, I wanted to do photography and video. That's where I felt I wanted to develop my career. And I thought this was way before digital. So we're talking in the 90s. And my college counselor discouraged me, said I would never make enough money. And I'm sure that the counselor had the best of intentions at heart at the time, wanting me to choose something a bit safer. But I've felt very deflated leaving that meeting. And so I studied something else completely. And for a while, I thought I wanted to go to medical school, and I was a public health major, and I got my master's in public health. Then medical school wasn't the route for me, but I did work in hospital as an administrator and did phenomenal work with wonderful people serving in the pediatric rehabilitation department of a hospital. And I learned so much. And there, I really felt that creativity wanting to come out and form a career. So I became a professional videographer, photographer for weddings and businesses and portraits, developed that. And, you know, then there was a car accident that caused I needed to have a cervical spine surgery, have a nifty little scar right here, but you can barely see it now. It's been a few years. But during that crazy time, I needed to figure my life out. And I remember, you know, in my thought life and in my prayer life, what needs to happen now? Because I was pretty lost. I really poured everything into developing the wedding photography video business. And that was no longer even an option for me unless I wanted to continue to re-injure, which I knew that was not the right choice. So in that time of rest, a woman at my church asked me, this great person, she asked me if I wanted to help out with a creative leadership program that we were running for high schoolers. And I did. And I was teaching photography, video, creativity, and leadership there. And in that experience, I realized I really like working with young adults, but I wanted them to have a little bit more life experience and a little bit more independence for my content to really be valuable. And that's when I started thinking about college. And I have a wonderful friend, one of my closest friends. And I mentioned, I was telling her all of my hopes and dreams. And she said, you know, there is an opening at Rutgers to teach a leadership course. And she at the time was also teaching that course. One thing led to another. People remembered me. I had been connected in previous ways in other parts. And one thing led to another. And I started teaching a leadership course there, and then a public speaking course. And the next semester, I'll be teaching another type of leadership course at the business school. I've also had the opportunity to teach interpersonal communication at another university. And I 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000% love teaching college students. And I also have done a lot of corporate training working with adults. So my heart and soul is really working with young adults in these areas of communication. And it is soul work. You know, it's very fulfilling. And I'll say it like this. When I was doing photography and video, I loved it. And I still do. I'm always working in those fields in my own mind to a different degree, but those areas are still very much appealing to me. But when I started teaching, I actually fell in love with the relationships and the dynamics with students and being in the classroom and teaching, whether the classroom is in person or in an online space. So that is my road to get to where I am right now.
But you know, I'm glad that you told that story, and thank you for sharing, by the way, because a lot of times people and our young people, and you know, we have students who rotate through our office, they think that their life is going to be linear, And so sometimes if something happens, they're thrown off because they weren't expecting it. And I'm not saying that you should, not plan to do what you want to do, but you have to be able to go with the flow. And it sounds like you did that.
Oh, I had to. There was much of a choice because it was like I can't find the flow, so I had to kind of make my own flow. But you're right. Everyone's path is different, and I have students now, my college students. They know what they want, right? They know they're on that track, which is fantastic. A lot of students have no idea, and part of the message that was important for me to learn too is that sometimes you need to know what's important for right now, but in a few years that might change and things might pivot. I was sure I was going to do photography and video and destination weddings for the rest of my natural life. That's the path that I was on. And then everything changed completely. And that was beyond my control, but I had to adapt. And then I didn't know it at the time, of course, but it brought me to something that made me feel even more fulfilled. And I didn't think that was possible. I felt so great in photography and video world that I was like, can this get any better? And then I come into the teaching world and I'm like, this is phenomenal. These relationships are phenomenal.
Wow. Now I'm gonna give you a chance a little later to talk a little bit about the connection, because you showed me some pictures and so forth before, and I want you to share that with our audience. But so communication, right? And you teach communication for a couple of things. One, did you say to help with confidence? Tell us how those two things go together.
I would say that word confidence is probably the number one word that comes up when I ask people what they wish they could learn, what they wish they had more of, especially in public speaking. That is the thing that comes up the most. And so I realized people need to understand about confidence and how to get it. So I will share with you that very often people think that confidence is the absence of fear. That the only way a person can be confident when they're speaking is if they are fearless. And I don't believe that that is true at all. What I do believe is that people who are confident have developed confidence as a result of taking action, even when they're afraid. So right before coming on the live with you today, Dwayne, my heart is racing. I feel my stomach doing some kind of weird things, a little bit of a dry mouth. Those are all signs of nervousness. And in some cases, for some people, those are signs of fear. But I have come to accept that's going to happen, but that I cannot let it stop me. Right? So for me, it's important to understand that you develop confidence by taking action when you're afraid. That it isn't about smashing the fear, getting rid of the fear. It's really about riding this fear wave and knowing that you're going to be able to ride this fear wave, and then you will develop confidence. And that's the message I try to communicate with my students and in my teaching about how to be more confident. It comes in the doing. It's not by eliminating, getting rid of fear.
Wow. So it's not that you have no fear, but that despite the fear, you still can execute.
Yeah. And I bumped into a student on yesterday, a student from a past semester. I bumped into her and she's like, I've been meaning to reach out. I've got these presentations and I'm kind of feeling nervous. And I reminded her of the same conversation that, okay, so you're afraid. So what? That's human. That's natural. We just have to accept that we're going to feel fear. It shouldn't stop us from taking action because, like I said to her, somebody needs to hear what you have to say. It would be such a shame if your message does not get to the person it needs to because the fear silenced you.
Oh, wow. Wow. That right there is an amazing message. That there's somebody out there who is waiting, and often in our, and we'll get to you as a content creator here in just a minute. so often, and I say there are people who are out there whose content is not being heard, their voice is not being heard, their book is not being read, their video is not being seen, their conference is not being attended because of fear. And somebody out there is basically waiting for that.
Absolutely. And we all connect to different people in different ways. And we don't just like one person or one style. If we look at who we follow, at least if you're anything like me, you follow a bunch of different people who express themselves in different ways. So we can connect with people who are different from us, who express themselves differently. And sometimes people let things like, well, I'm not sophisticated in the way that I speak. So there are lots of people who aren't looking for sophisticated speakers. There are lots of people who are looking for people to be real, to be genuine, to say it like it is. It's to me, it's about being yourself and delivering a great message to people that need to hear it. And there's an audience out there for you. Like if it's a call on your heart and that's something you want to do is to speak, fear should not be the reason that you don't do it, ever.
I love that. And really that's part of what we are doing this month. And just another plug here as we continue talking to Tatiana about communication, right? This Vlogmas that we're doing is with that intention to help people maybe overcome some of the fears, right? Whether we're going live, whether we're creating content, whether we're innovating on our channels, in our space, with our clients, with our students, it allows us a time that's dedicated to say, okay, here you go, guys. Here's 31 days. You need to be doing something.
For sure. And I don't ask my students to do things that I'm not willing to do myself. And as a lifelong learner, I need to always be learning. So I'm myself enrolled in a class right now. It's a year-long course to help me become a better content creator. And I'm, like you, Dwayne, participating in Vlogmas and making mistakes, right? I'm doing things that are new to me, practicing in a safe space with a great community, but I'm making mistakes, and they're visible to everybody. But that's how I learn and that's how I grow. Because I think maybe a younger me would have not posted the video with the mistakes. I would have spent a lot of time trying to get it perfect before I could show it. But that's a waste of energy, a waste of time, a waste of space. And this week, that came up in my class too, and this I've heard many times in lots of different spaces, people simply don't connect with perfect. They just don't. People are looking for you to be present, and the focus should be about making progress. So to me, it's presence and progress, not perfection. Throw the perfection in the garbage.
I love it. Well, let's see. So we've got Ben Flanagan who's with us, and Ben says, life is not always linear. Very true. So Ben, thank you for coming by. Let's get some. We appreciate you coming through and hanging out with us. Once again, we are in the middle of Vlogmas, and we're talking with Tatiana about communication. And we're going to get to her channel and what she does there. And then she's going to give some show and tell with some pictures here in just a minute. If you're getting benefit from what we're doing, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, give us a like, send a message, do a DM, something to connect with us. And of course, subscribe to our channel. And what I've been saying to everyone is if you see that little logo that's right up there, if you see that on anybody's video for this month or in the future, go ahead and hop over to that content and watch it, because it's happening during Vlogmas, and it's an opportunity for content creators to grow, expand, to make changes. And the benefit to us is that we do grow. We're trying new things. For instance, on our channel, on my channel, I'm highlighting right now people who are making differences, people who are doing things in the space that they find themselves. Because so often we tend to wait until we become perfect, as Tatiana was just saying, until we do something. But this allows us to do that. And the benefit to you is you get to see us grow sometimes in real time. right? And so to say one of my mistakes that just happened on this show, I just put up the wrong names. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I popped that over really quickly. All right. So that's what happens when you do real time, right, Tatiana?
I did. I saw that too. And in my head, I'm like, should I give a shout out to Lala? What should I do here? I'm just going to keep talking and let Dwayne.
Like, Lala, you look different. You look different from what you normally look like.
These are the moments when I wish I was funny, because in that moment I could have said something funny, but my brain was just like, I'm going to keep talking.
But it was so cool. I love it. So let's hop over now and let's talk about where you find yourself. So you've been doing, teaching, communication. Tell us about Tatiana Teaches and how you got there.
Yes. About a year ago, I started doing interviews of my students and professionals in the same areas. It's always public speaking, leadership, and interpersonal communication, right? These are the things I love to talk about. And I wanted to give a platform and a space for my students to come on and talk and share. So they're shorter videos, about 15 to 20 minutes, the interviews, most of them are. They were pre-recorded. But I started going live last week, and I still have some videos of students that need to get out there. But I really wanted to elevate my students and provide an opportunity for people to come on and share a message. So many of my students need to develop these skills, want to develop these skills, whether it's for their own career or their own interest. But number one was making a space for that. And now with the platform, it really is about opening up the doors to all lifelong learners of the world who want to learn more and become better communicators, get that confidence, establish better interpersonal relationships, and increase their emotional intelligence, their relational intelligence, just really understand more about working with, having relationships with, meaningful connections with other people. So that's what the channel is all about. And my goal is to create courses in the future too that people can come in and join and not have to drive anywhere, connect to them remotely, but still have a group of people that they're doing the course live with. So it would run live a few times a year. So those are my goals for the future, right? To create online courses that people can join. So you don't have to register at Rutgers University to come and take a course with me. You can come on and sign up online to take the course with me. So those are my plans for the future.
Awesome. I love it. I love that you are providing a space, first of all, for your students, for them to be able to express their thoughts and to be in the public. Love that you have this channel, and you're really kind of incorporating the things you love in the online space. Absolutely.
100%. And then that's how I know that it's the right thing to do, because I love it. These are the things that I talk about. If we were going to sit down in a coffee shop, I'd probably bring this stuff up, or it would just come up naturally anyway. So giving my students a space, and then also bringing in professionals who have work experience in these areas, who have a message that they want to share about these topics. My very first live interview was with Michaela Ayers, who works in diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's an amazing communicator herself. And we talked about deep listening and hearing her perspective on that. So that was phenomenal. And then last week, I'm teaching about boundaries. So all of these meaningful topics that will help make our lives better, all free on the YouTube channel. So it's a way for me to make a contribution back to the world. And then I have all these wonderful human beings who want to come on the channel and also contribute. I love it. It's just a privilege and an honor to be able to do it.
All right. I love that. So Tatiana Teaches, where did that name come from?
Well, I was really trying to think. I'm like, what do you call this? What should I call it? And I was like, well, I love to teach. My name is Tatiana. I like the alliteration there. I was like, let me just go with it. Double T's. And we have someone in the eCamp community, Bradley Teaches. And I was like, oh, there's Bradley, there's Tatiana, and I just figured it works. It flows. It sounds good. Nobody complained when I proposed it as an idea. So that's what it is.
Oh, I love it. Tatiana Teaches. And it has a nice ring to it.
Thank you.
Now, so there are some people right now, right, who are sitting at home watching this, and they're saying to themselves, "Yeah, but that's her gift. You know, she can communicate, she can speak, and that's not me." What do you say to that person who feels like they want to be out there, they want to be able, and we're talking now communicating in the public space. I mean, communicating interpersonally in private is one thing, but being out in the public and communicating, there's someone who wants to do that. They feel like they want to do that, but they're like, yeah, that's not me. What do you say to them?
I would say the thought is slightly incomplete. That's not me, but we need to add a little thing, dot, 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 yet. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing is, you're not trying to be me. You're trying to be the best version of you. And it's the same for my students delivering a speech. They're not learning to deliver a speech like I deliver a speech, because that's how Tatiana does it, right? They need to learn to do it in their own way. Dwayne needs to communicate the very best way that Dwayne can. Ben needs to communicate the very best way that Ben can. So it's an individual journey, and the comparison trap is called a trap for a reason, and it doesn't bring anything good. So I say, number one, it's an incomplete sentence. Yet everybody gets better at communication when they put in the time and the effort. And then the second thing is, it's not about comparing yourself to another person. It's about being the best version of you. And it can happen. I mean, I've seen it, right? I've had hundreds of students come, different personalities, different levels of extroversion and introversion. And no one has not grown. There is nobody who was the same when they started as when they ended. And it's for our classes, it's a 1 semester commitment, but for those of us not in a college class, those opportunities are much longer. And so I think everybody can get better in these areas. What I've seen it, I've witnessed it. I've seen it happen in my own life, and I've seen it happen in the lives of all of my students as well.
Wow. So what is one thing, right? And I'm going to say I'm going to put this out there. The one thing that you can do is actually, when Tatiana puts her stuff on the screen, to go and sign up. Okay. That's given, because you're all going to do that. Right. I know it, right? You're all going to get out there. You're going to get into her classes and she's going to start learning. But what can they begin doing, like right now at this moment?
I think probably an amazing place to start is to learn a bit about yourself, your motivations, your personality, your tendencies. I know a lot of people are a bit skeptical about personality types, but I would say start learning, or maybe finding out exactly where are you having difficulty. Is it in conflict resolution? Is it in boundaries? Is it in speaking up? Is it in nervousness when having to present? There are so many places that people might be struggling. So perhaps figuring out what that one area is, because we got to work on one thing at a time as well, right? It's very hard and overwhelming to say, I want to get better in everything. So pick one thing and then learn a little bit about yourself. Like maybe starting with something like levels of introversion and extroversion and how you energize your batteries. And then after you've done a little bit about that, you can start to learn a little bit more about how your own personality interacts with other personalities. So there's lots of different tools that we can use, like the DISC assessment, DISC assessment, learning about that's a nice place to start because it's 4 different types, so it's not super overwhelming. And then once you've learned those, then you can go to the Myers-Briggs, which is 16 different categories. And then Gretchen Rubin has amazing resources called The 4 Tendencies, which was transformative in my own life. We can do an entire live just on that. And actually, now that I say that, I probably will, where you're learning about how you handle inner and outer expectations, right? The expectations you place on yourself versus the one other people place on you. That really helped me significantly understand my motivation, especially when I went from working as a hospital administrator to working as an entrepreneur on my own. Motivation levels are different. So I would say studying and learning about yourself in those areas. Another great one is the 5-factor model that's been highly researched as well. So for anybody who's skeptical about personality and tendency types and things, learning about that 5-factor model is a great. I really like it as well for teaching. So that, I would say that is a good place to start. But we live in a world where so much information is available. Videos, articles, blogs, so many things that we can grow. Even podcasts, right? Lots of places, if you prefer to listen, start learning and start growing, and then take it one skill at a time. That would be, for me, that would be a great place to start for people who are thinking, that's not me. Just remember the ... yet part.
Yet. I'm going to get a shirt that says ... yet.
Awesome. I love that.
Yet. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you, Tatiana, for that.
You got it. We'll get matching ones and then come on the show again.
That's right. So really getting to know who you are can be a big part of beginning to learn communication, because you've got to know how you interact and what your feelings are, because sometimes our feelings prevent us from really receiving or hearing and understanding and communicating.
Yes. Dwayne, have you done the DISC assessment? Do you know about the DISC types?
Yeah, as you said that, I was actually smiling because we just completed the DISC profiles in our office in the last 3 weeks. We've been going through them with our team, kind of learning what each person is. Oh,
that's wonderful. I applaud that. Very good. I love that. Do you mind sharing what your type is?
I am 100% I. I'm 60% D, 32% S, and I think my C was 20.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And if anybody who's listening has no idea what he's saying, right? D is this more, I is an influencing type. D is a more direct type. S is a steady type, and C is a conscientious type. So like you, Dwayne, my highest, because everybody has all of these in some ways, right? We're all a combination, but there do tend to be really strong pulls in one area for people. And like you, I am also an I, like a super high I, like an I to the I to the I. That's me, which are, we're people who love to communicate and talk and encourage, right? When you say your tagline, educate, empower, and encourage, I'm like, yes. I love all of those words. So that's us, right? These are these I people. We are people focused. We like to operate at a fast pace. We usually very creative, outgoing, storyteller kind of people. But let's just take a conscientious type, a C type as an example, who is more task focused than people focused, who really values data, accuracy, precision, does not like to be rushed, prefers to operate at a slower pace. So because I know these different types, if I were on a team with somebody who's more of a C type, I know that I need to slow it down a bit. I don't mean slow it down like my language or even dumb it down. That's not what I mean. I mean, these are people who need a little more time versus operating in my fast-paced world. So especially if you're in a leadership position, it is your responsibility to adjust for the team as well, for that communication, so that people can be their best. I see a leader's job is to elevate people, to help that team become even better. So simply knowing those things, that a person who's a C type will start to question a lot of things. And because accuracy is so important, I will know to have a lot of patience when questions are being asked, because that's their tendency versus, and for me, it's actually complementary because I don't really want to do all the details and fact searching and checking. Great to have somebody on the team that loves to do those things. So that's one example of how we can get to learn and implement strategies and techniques in this world to help make our communications better. So I really do applaud you, Dwayne, for doing this in your own office. That's fantastic. And I hope it brings lots of great conversations.
Oh yeah, it's brought a lot of conversation. Our office, we actually did this. Wow, has to be about 9 years ago, and so we have on the wall, we have people's disc profiles that they did. We got their picture, and then what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and so we're actually redoing it now to include some of our newer team members, and so they're learning. And it's funny that now they're like, that's why Dr. Wood is like that.
Yes, right. That makes sense. The other last little bit I want to add, Dwayne, is that these are tendencies, right? They're not absolutes. Like just because we're an I type, it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything 100%. So when you get results, like it's okay if some of it doesn't feel right for you. It's okay to say yes to this part, but no, this part not so much, because it's not set in stone. It's not 100% accurate either. But to me, I find it really helpful because it gives us so much language to be able to understand ourselves and to be able to express to other people some of our needs, some of our tendencies. And I really think that, and I bring it into my classroom too. I have my students do this as well because we do a lot of teamwork, and I want people to be able to grow, learn, and have experiences working on teams now when they're in college, as they're developing and launching into their own careers, where they're going to be working on many, many teams with many different people.
I love it. Yeah, I tell people that when we did it the first time, it improved my marriage.
I believe it.
We're like, okay. So yeah, okay. Anyway, so I'm going to write that down. We have to come back in one of our shows, do a disc and just do that for people. Okay, there we go. All right. So communication, right? And you, right, this piece that is so important to you, because when we were talking, doing our check and so forth, you were so intense wanting to talk about connection, and really, the title of this episode has connection in there, right? That's the reason why we communicate, isn't it? For connection. It's the reason
I communicate, right? I want deep connection, and knowing that about myself, right? I also understand that levels of connection for me might be different than for other people, right? As an extroverted person, I seek a lot of connection, but I lean a little bit more towards the ambivert, but I am an extrovert versus being an introvert who needs to recharge their batteries alone. So for me, connection is important. Connection is also important for introverts. It just looks a little bit different. So understanding how each of us defines connection is important. But for me, one of the most valuable things about being alive on this earth is having connections with other people. And whether they're short-term, long-term, or semester long, whatever they are, those connections are very valuable to me. And I work very hard to make sure that I can implement those in a way that is genuine to me, that feels warm. And I wanted to share with you, there's a Danish word, and I'm probably not pronouncing it properly, but the word is Hygge. I believe it's pronounced hygge. Again, don't quote me on that. We might have to look up the pronunciation. But what that word means, it's like this Danish way of life, which as a person from Costa Rica, I kind of feel like Costa Rica has this way of life too. But I also grew up here in New Jersey, which gets a very bad reputation. Okay, everybody thinks people from New Jersey are like super mean, but we're not. I'm a very warm and friendly person. So anyway, back to the concept of hygge. It's about coziness and comfort and well-being. And that is what I strive to create, whether somebody's coming into my home or I'm creating a space in the classroom. I want it to feel inviting. I want it to feel warm. I want it to be welcoming and, as best I can, cozy, right? I can't always make classroom spaces cozy, but I do everything that I can so that people feel welcome. And students, whether they're corporate or college, feel that difference. And when they feel welcome, they're more themselves. When they're more themselves, they let those filters down. When people let those filters down, we're getting deeper connection. We're getting real connection. And that to me has power and meaning, and what I strive to do as an educator.
Wow, wow, love that, love that. There's a question here that I want to bring up, and I'm going to have you take a stab at this. It's from Ben, and Ben says, let's see if I can get it up there first of all. Well, maybe not. Ben says, people are very judgmental and critical, and it holds me back from being more of a public speaker. How do I get past this?
Well, one thing that I teach my students is that most people are rooting for us. Most people are not judging and criticizing us, right? So in an example in the classroom, or even if you think about your own groups, it's probably very few people who would fall into this more negative category, whereas most people want you to succeed, want you to do well. So then a couple of things come to mind. Like, for example, is that a situation that you shouldn't be in because the people, maybe it's a toxic environment? But if it's not, if it's one or two people, I think it's important to focus on the people who are welcoming and speak to them. So it's not about dismissing the negative people, but it's really about not letting the negative people take away from the people who want to connect, from the positive people, because sometimes the negativity can feel so strong and so big that it poisons the well altogether, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. So I think very often the negativity speaks so loudly and is so much stronger. But if we really sit back and think, there are probably a lot more positive people in the room than we think. So part of that is realizing that most people are decent people who want you to do well. And I know that that's not always the case, right? I'm not being dismissive of negative situations. Sometimes it's a boundaries issue, and we need to address that and have conversations about that, especially if it's a repeat behavior or it's an environment that is affecting our well-being.
Awesome.
So hopefully that helps.
I think that's an amazing answer. Well, I am so excited that you are here. Let me have you, I'm going to give you the screen for a minute, and I'm going to have you tell us about your amazing students, the connections, and here you go.
Well, my students are so amazing that I'm going to need at least 7 hours of your show, Dwayne, to tell you about all of them. So what I'll share is just most recently, and I'm going to put my phone on the screen here, but just yesterday in class was special occasion speaking, and I brought in sparkling juice and we all made toast. So there's no sound, but I just wanted to share a little bit about what it's like sometimes in the classroom, right? We're not always gathered around in a circle making toast, but yesterday was a special occasion and we really had a nice time. And it was quite touching and very emotional for me because students, they shared moments that were meaningful to them in the classroom. People spoke. We spent 16 minutes or 17 minutes making toasts in the classroom yesterday. And it would not have happened. I would not have gotten that amazing feedback, those moments of celebration, the things that are really meaningful to the students, if I hadn't asked. And I know not everyone's going to bring sparkling juice and shot glasses to class to toast and everything. But for me, it's so, again, this word is so important to me. Making those spaces warm and inviting where people can genuinely express themselves. And then it also is a form of feedback. It lets me know how they really feel about being there. And it touches my heart. You can't you can't hear people expressing their true selves and not have a reaction to it. Like I even now, just thinking about it, I can feel it. Like this has meaning. It's valuable, and that's why I believe that it's such a calling in my life to do this with college students, to do this with young adults, because the feedback, the relationships built, it's mutually beneficial, because it's not just for them. It's not like, oh, I'm there to give. I get so much joy, growth, my own learning by creating these wonderful moments of connection that help me feel like I'm living out part of my purpose in this world with them by offering these opportunities. And that's just one example, just from yesterday in class, being able to do that with my students. And shout out to all my Rutgers folks for being so amazing and wonderful and being willing to share with me.
Awesome. So why don't you take a minute now and just tell people what's going on with you, where they can find you, how do they connect with you and get to you if they're interested in working with and finding out more about your information?
Yes, so everybody knows that tomorrow I'll be decorating for Christmas in the morning. Also, I go live tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time. So 12 noon Eastern tomorrow, and I'm going to be teaching on how to give a great toast. So if you've got those special occasion celebrations, come and join me live tomorrow for a noontime session. And you can also reach me on lots of different social platforms, on Instagram at Tatiana Teaches, on LinkedIn at Hello Tatiana Rodriguez, on YouTube, Tatiana Teaches as well. And I have a website, TatianaTeaches.com. And you can also email me, TatianaTeaches@iCloud.com. So many different ways to get in touch. But I do hope that if you're looking to become a better communicator, you want a little more confidence, you want to develop your relational intelligence, that you will check out my content and see how it will help you in your relationships.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you will allow us to come back, because we really just scraped the surface of all the stuff we could possibly have talked about. So I hope you allow us to get you back soon. Oh
yeah, I'd love to.
Good. Well, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. If you hang out for a minute, let me close out, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here. Before we close out, let's just hop over, and we're going to do our amazing question wheel and get that out of the way. If you remember the amazing question wheel, if you've been here, you know what this is all like, and I'll explain in just a minute. All right. So once again, if you've been here, you know what our wheel is about. We've got some questions on the wheel. We're going to spin it, and whatever question it lands on, I'm going to answer. And the rules for the question answer has to be concise. It has to be real. It has to be usable. It can't be nonsensical. And I've got to do it in 45 seconds. That's right, 45 seconds. And sometimes being an I, as you heard, 45 seconds is a little restricting to me, but we're going to try to do it anyway. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip that out. I'm going to create a reel, a short, whatever you want to call it, on the different social media platforms. I'm going to go ahead and post it. And if you look right here, somewhere under my name, you'll see Dwayne Wood MD. That's all of our social media platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or dwood@dwaynewoodmd.com. Anyway, so go out there, find it, and when you do find it, I want you to type in hashtag I was there. So hashtag I was there. So let's go ahead and let's spin the wheel and find out which question we are going to answer tonight. If I can get my mouse over there, right? There we go. Oh, it's coming. All right, round and round it goes. Where it stops, I don't know. All right, let's see. Should I use a continuous glucose monitor? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one. Should I use a continuous glucose monitor? And just for context, the continuous glucose monitor, for those of you who don't know, it is a monitor that checks your blood sugars and does it every 5 minutes for some of them. And it records it. Right now with our monitors, you're just getting a point in time, right? So one single blood sugar whenever you check it. But the glucose monitor, continuous, allows you to put it on and you are getting blood sugars that are throughout the 24 hours. And some of them, you wear them for 14 days before you have to change. Some of them for 10 days before you have to change. I happen to have 2 of them on, and you saw me put this on one of our shows, and I'm wearing both of them, 2 of them, because we're going to be doing a show where we compare the 2. So continuous glucose monitor. So anyway, so with that as a backdrop, let's go ahead and let's see if we can answer this question. Let's get 45 seconds on the screen. See, should I use a continuous glucose monitor? That's the question. Here we go. Should I use a continuous glucose monitor? One of the most amazing things is that when you check your blood sugars, you're able to tell how your body is responding to different things, different foods and different events, different emotions. With a regular monitor, you're just getting a point in time, one sugar. But with a continuous monitor, you get that 24 hours a day. And so I would recommend that almost everyone who has diabetes can use a continuous glucose monitor. And even if you're trying to do weight loss and weight management, you can use a continuous monitor as well. All right, I think I did it. I think I did that. So anyway, so like I said, go out, find that on our social media platforms, and go ahead and put hashtag I was there, hashtag I was there, to let us know that you were with us as we did that. All right. So communication is what we've been talking about. It is so important. It is a huge skill to have in life. And it's essential for many aspects, right? Whether it's on your job, relationship, whether you're speaking to your manager, a client at work, just a friend, the ability to communicate effectively is paramount for success. We live in an increasingly interconnected world, and the need for strong communication skills has never been more important. And this episode just highlighted that. I'm so excited that Tatiana was able to come on and share with us. If you've not done so already right now, just slip over there and subscribe to her channel, find all the things that she has going on, sign up for her courses, let her know that you really appreciate her coming over here. If you're watching this on the replay, please go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comments. Once again, this is Vlogmas and day number 6. Day number 6, we've got an amazing lineup for you that's coming for the rest of this month. You do not want to miss any of these episodes. For this channel, if you've not done so, go ahead and give us a like, a thumbs up for this episode, and anything that you've seen that we've done. Come on back for Vlogmas as we go through the month. And if you've not done so, also subscribe to the channel. Create a free account. It's on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so that you'll be able to know when we put new episodes and new videos up. Thank you once again for coming. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I help to educate, I encourage, I empower you to take charge of your health, avoid complications, create the life you've always wanted, and go to the next level. Let's get some music and let's get on in here, and we'll see you at the next episode.